Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
Welcome to Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, where we explore conversations that inspire understanding and transformation. I am your host, Keith Haney. Today, we're going to dive into the world of criminal defense and someone who knows the system inside and out. Saul Beidenfeld is a seasoned New York criminal defense attorney with over 3 decades of experience defending clients against charges that can sometimes change their lives overnight, from high-stakes felonies to sensitive allegations. Known for his zero BS approach and relentless courtroom presence, Saul has served as a former New York City Assistant District Attorney in the Special Narcotics Bureau, worked as a defense lawyer in Florida, and now stands as a trusted advocate in New York. Saul, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Keith. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a great honor to talk to you this morning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to dig into some interesting topics, and we're going to hope to bless the audience by our conversation. But I'm going to ask you my favorite question as we get started here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece that I ever received was to treat everyone respectfully, with dignity, and it will always come back to reward you in the end. No matter, even if it's somebody that you think is the lowest of the low, just treat them with dignity, and you will be rewarded.
I love that.
Yeah, we're all God's creations.
We are, exactly. And we need to be able to do that. And being able to do that, to me, is so valuable, especially in today's culture that's a little bit more tense than it maybe used to be down the road. But
I might not agree with somebody's political position. I might not agree with what they're telling me, but they're a human and they're God's creation, and I have to have respect for them. And I have respect for their opinion, even if I don't agree with it.
I love that. I'm curious. I've had a couple of lawyers on, and I love to ask this question. What do you think is the most common misconceptions about lawyers that the public has?
Wow, there's a lot of misconceptions. The most common, I guess you want. They're all blood-sucking vampires. They're only interested in our own financial gain.
Right, I have heard that one.
And I am sure that there are attorneys like that. No doubt about it. I think I've met a couple of them in my career. I certainly am not. I'm more concerned with the client and the client's family as well, and the client's friends. I want a client who would like to have me over for their house for dinner, and I would have them over for my house for dinner, and we could talk. I'll represent them. I'll do the best I can, but we need to have some relationship where we could trust each other, even to the point that we might even become friends one day.
I love that. What led you into this particular field? I'm just curious. Your story.
So growing up, all Jewish mothers, they say you have to be a doctor. And I didn't do too well in chemistry in college. So I said, wow, what's the second option? No, but seriously, what I really wanted to be when I grew up is an actor. I thought it was great. And somebody sat me down and said, most actors in Hollywood do not have jobs. And unless you really want to be a waiter waiting for a job as an actor, you're probably not going to make it. So I was disappointed, but I figured, what's the next best thing I could do? And that's to act in front of a judge and act in front of a jury. So I was like, oh, you know what? Why don't I go to law and I'll become a trial attorney and I'll be acting every day in front of a judge and a jury. And that's what I did.
I'm curious, thinking about your background as an assistant district attorney and now a defense lawyer, how did that transition shape your approach to defending clients?
It's very good to see the other side of things. I think it's very important. When I graduated law school, I had this urge to try cases right away. And the only place you're going to try a case right away is in the DA's office or on legal aid. If you go to a big firm, you could be wait 5-6 years before they give you a trial. So I went to the DA's office, but it was very important to see how the government functions, how the district attorney's office functions, how they bring cases, and more importantly, what cases they don't want to bring. There's tremendous education in ethics when you work for a government organization and how to become an ethical attorney. And I think that really helped me in my role as a defense attorney. People think defense attorneys are sharks that will do anything to help their client. That's not true. It's not anything. It's anything within reason and that is ethical and legal. So yeah, and I think that that really molded me and gave me a foundation to continue as a defense attorney.
Have you ever defended a client that you didn't like, but you had to bring the best defense for them anyway?
No, no. I always find something I like in my clients. Always.
Okay.
I will always find something I like. Um, it could be their family, that I like their family, so I'll defend them to the best of my ability. But even the most heinous of crimes and the most loathsome clients that people would see as a loathsome person because of the crime they're accused of, I will find a redeeming value and a redeeming quality, and I'll be defending the person because of that redeeming quality and redeeming reason. And most people who are accused of crimes probably have a background of maybe addiction or mental illness or something. No one just wakes up in the morning and says, "Okay, today I'm going to go ahead and commit a rape." It doesn't happen. There's something that I could see and feel and say, "Wow, I really feel bad for this person that they had to have this outcome, and I could help me defend them."
Wow. So let's dig into kind of what we talked about before we got on the show, and that is kind of what is a trend you're seeing today that you're starting to kind of really get behind to say, "Hey, let me raise the warning on this particular incident."
Right. So it's called CSAM, CSAM. It's known as child sexual abuse material. And now let's get one thing absolutely clear right from the start. CSAM is not child porn. It's not some taboo corner of an adult entertainment business. It's evidence of a crime committed against a child, period. End of story. Now, I'm a criminal defense attorney and I've handled sex crimes cases in the past, but I've seen how people make catastrophic decisions, and I've seen what happens to the victims whose abuse ends up online forever. Nobody wins in this world. The only meaningful outcome would be prevention. So we need to talk honestly about it because people are clicking on the wrong sites and doing the wrong things, and it needs to be discussed.
So tell us a little bit about what that crime is. You talked about it's not
Sure.
not particular child pornography, but
So
it's so tell us exactly what that crime is.
Right. So when people hear CSAM, they imagine something abstract. It's not abstract. Legally, CSAM is any visual depiction of a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct. So it could be photos, videos, digital images. That's all illegal. There's no gray area. There's no loopholes. If a minor is involved in sexual conduct, it's a felony. And the second thing most people misunderstand is this: you don't get to say, "Oh, it was an accident. I clicked on it by accident. I downloaded it by accident. I saved it by accident. I shared it by accident." The law treats all downloads, all saves, all shares as an intentional act, unless your attorney could prove it otherwise. But the government will treat it as an intentional act. It's one of the strictest areas of federal crime, and for good reason. Um, the government has made a trend of catching these people these days. It's happening. In the last month, I've signed up 4 cases like this. So I really would like to break it down into, the 3 big categories that people hear about for your listeners. And that's production, receipt, and possession. And they're not the same thing.
So yeah,
So
break that down for us. Yeah.
yeah, production is the absolute worst. Under federal law, production includes persuading, inducing, enticing, coercing a minor to create sexually explicit material. Now, let me repeat that. You don't need a camera crew, all right? You don't need a Hollywood studio. You don't even need physical conduct, all right? Or contact, rather. You don't need physical contact. So if you message a minor and convince them to send you a sexual image, the law considers that production.
Mm.
Production carries a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison, And sometimes you're lucky if you only get 15 years. There's no chance of parole either. That charge alone is a life-altering and often life-ending charge for people. It's really scary. And you might text some girl saying, who's 15 years old, say, take off your shirt. And once you've done that and received a picture in return, you're facing a minimum of 15 years because of that 4 words. Wow. Then there's something, the second category is receipt, right? Now, receipt means that you actively obtained the CSAM. You downloaded it, you requested it, or you searched for it, and you accepted it from somebody else. And that mandatory minimum is 5 years in federal prison for each picture that you got.
Wow.
So if someone knowingly pulls this material onto their device, a phone or a computer, even once, that's enough. And people don't realize how low the threshold is. It's pretty scary.
Wow. What's the third one?
The third category is possession. Now, possession is the lowest tier legally, but it's still a felony. It means that you had CSAM on your device without proof that you intentionally sought it out. So there's no mandatory minimum, but don't kid yourself. You're still facing prison, the sex offender registry, and a lifetime of consequences. Your job, your family, your ability to live anywhere or use the internet, all of that would change forever. Nobody walks away from CSAM convictions ever. Wow. So, let's talk about, something that the public never sees. Who gets charged with these crimes? People imagine that there's some shadowy predator in the basement, with a raincoat. That's not the reality. The reality is it's middle-aged people, mostly men, people with degrees, doctors, lawyers, clergy, people with families, people with no prior arrests ever, people who are isolated, depressed, compulsive, addicted to online sexual behavior, and not thinking about the consequences until it's way too late. Now, I'm not trying to gain sympathy. What I really am trying to tell you, listeners, is that I'm trying to prevent the crime from happening. If you don't understand the psychology, you can't stop the behavior.
Right.
Most CSAM cases start with something called escalation. So someone watches adult content, and they watch some more, and they need something more extreme, and their brain gets so desensitized, they chase novelty, they lose control. And then one night, sometimes at 2:00 in the morning, and you're alone, and you're in a shame spiral, they cross a line that they would never have crossed before. And that one click becomes a federal charge. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I don't know what I was thinking, or I never thought I'd be one of those people. The truth is, nobody ever thinks they will be.
Wow. And you talk about how that one click can ruin your life. So as you prepare to kind of represent people like this, what are the things you're going through as you prepare a case to defend them?
Well, for people need to understand how this actually starts, because people think that they're invisible online. They're not invisible. The law enforcement have monitors out there, and they're monitoring your IP address sometime. There are peer-to-peer networks that are exposing your downloads. There's cloud service flags that are upload automatically and know what's going on. There are sting operations everywhere. Your internet provider logs everything. Forensic analysts can recover deleted files, hidden files, encrypted files, all of it. No one is safe from this. And people tell me, oh, but I'm using incognito mode. It doesn't matter. I deleted it. It doesn't matter. I turned on a VPN. It doesn't matter. Forensics will always catch up to it. And if you download illegal material once, even for a few seconds, chances are it will be detected sooner or later. You can't outsmart the federal agents. No one has done it. No one will do it. And here's the part I want every listener to hear carefully and clearly. If you feel urges, compulsions, or escalations, not toward illegal material yet, but in general, that is the time to act. That is the moment where lives can still be saved. This is not a crime. It's a warning. Everyone says, well, it's not a crime to watch porn. No, but it's a warning that it may become porn. And you absolutely can shut this down before it even becomes a crime. And I could discuss the ways of how people could shut it down if that's what you want to get into.
Yeah, so let's go into that.
So there are certainly, internet tools to be used. They could install blocking accountability software to block, any porn from coming onto a computer. One suggestion I give people is to remove the privacy from your devices, because people think that if they're incognito or they're using hidden apps or they're using VPNs that no one's going to find out about it. So accountability sometimes kills the temptation. And thirdly, you might need professional help. Many people who develop dangerous compulsions are dealing with trauma, depression, loneliness, shame, OCD-like behavior, sexual compulsivity. So you need a therapist who specializes in this area and can interpret the pattern early. You're not confessing to a crime; you're preventing one, and that's what's important. You need to break the escalation loop. If you feel disgusted after watching material that's adult material, that's your brain telling you to pull back. Don't ignore that signal. The brain shoots out a bunch of dopamine when you're watching this material. You need to find another way to get that dopamine out. So exercise, meet
Right.
up with friends, go into a routine, maybe do recovery groups. Faith-based really works also. Go to church, go to synagogue, do therapy. There are things that could help people stay grounded. And what's really important is to talk about it. Tell someone you trust, maybe a partner, a mentor, a therapist, a clergy member, not about the illegal behavior. Don't talk about the illegal behavior because
Right.
you might not have crossed that line yet and there's nothing to confess. But you can say something like, I'm afraid of where my behavior is heading and I need help to stay safe. You know,
Right.
that sentence alone could prevent countless crimes.
Wow. What other things would you advise people who are hearing this going, I think that there is a problem here. What do I do if, say, you're in that loop where you're thinking this could easily happen to me? What do you tell people who are maybe caught in that loop?
So I've had clients sit down right in the beginning of their CSAM experience,
Hmm.
and I feel their pain and I feel their anxiety, and I can know right away this is going to escalate. A lot of people ask me for advice. How do I get rid of it? Like that's not my job to tell you how to get
Right.
rid of it. And that's probably not legal for me to tell you how to get rid of it. And the truth is, I don't even know how to get rid of it, quite frankly.
Right.
It's there, it's out there already. But I can tell you, and I can recommend therapists to you. I can recommend always, I really would like to educate clergy more about this. I think that sometimes
Mm.
people speak to their clergy and their clergy really have no clue and no idea of like what's going on in the outside world. And I'm not saying I'm saying they're doing so much that they haven't really focused in on this. And clergy does need to focus in on this. Clergy needs to be educated that this addiction to the internet, and especially addiction to pornography on the internet, ultimately leads to criminal activity. Um, I'm not looking to stop anyone's, First Amendment right. I'm not looking I'm not on a campaign to stop pornography on the internet. I'm not. I'm looking for one individual who needs the help, who comes to me and says, I need help. I think I've committed a crime. I want to help them in terms of preventing a future crime from happening or a worse crime from happening. And I think the first person is if this person has, a religious mentor or a clergy member that they can go to, should start with that. But it has to be a clergy member that understands the compulsion, understands the addiction. After that, I would recommend a therapist. Definitely go see whether it's a social worker, whether it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you need, go see somebody and be 100% honest with that person. Let them know what's going on in your life. And they may recommend a recovery group. There are so many recovery groups. There's Porn Anonymous, there's Sex Anonymous, there's Sexaholics Anonymous, there's sex addiction programs where people can go to. And I find that it's helped people in recovery are doing great. And it's an important step to take to first admit it. I have a problem. And when you come to me and you admit it, and I pointed out that you do have a problem, hold on to that admission. Understand that you have a problem and that you're going to continue looking for a solution to that problem because there is a solution. It's not hopeless. And I really hope that people could prevent it early before it gets out of hand. And then they're coming to me as a client because they've been arrested for possession of child porn.
I noticed they're also targeting kids a lot online in different places. What are you discovering as that's happening even with our young people, our teenagers?
Um, the, the, there were a lot of teenagers who are on gaming sites and, of course, on TikTok, which is huge, and they're being scammed, and no one is protecting them, and no one is looking at their devices. and they're free to do whatever they want in their devices. And it's quite frankly, it's very harmful. Um, Everybody wants to, don't go into my business, mom and dad. It's my business, my privacy. Don't invade my privacy. Don't come into my room. But there are kids that need help, and honesty and openness in a family is what's really going to help. Sit down and have a discussion with your child, and tell your child, come to me with any problem you have. Come to me with any issue that you're having. And I promise I won't punish you and I won't judge you. I just want to help you. And if more parents could sit down and have that talk with their teenagers, especially, I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine. As you're doing and working in this field, are there any things that you are also helping other lawyers who are maybe starting to get some of this work as well, or these clients as well? Any advice you have for lawyers?
Yes. If you're not proficient in it, don't do it. All right, because you need to understand, even with these rules, there are so many different levels. Sometimes someone accused of this crime is better off taking a 15-year minimum than a 5-year minimum. Let me explain. So the 15-year minimum is for production. In other words, the government says you told this girl to take off her clothes and to send you a picture. Okay, and you say you're facing 15 years because of that. Now the 5-year minimum would be because you received it, right? The problem is you might have received 1,000 pictures. That's 5,000 years, but you're only asked once for somebody to take off their clothes. That's 15 years. So you have to be very adept at understanding the sentencing guidelines and understanding the nuances there, and it's not easy to convince a client, by the way, you'll do less time if you take a 15-year sentence than a 5-year sentence, because it doesn't sound logical. But you need to be really sharp and adept at the sentencing guidelines and how the prosecutors think and what they're looking for before advising a client on a plea. And especially before advising a client whether to go to trial or not, how easy it could be or not easy it could be for the government to win a trial like this. So that's an important point that people have to really understand and make. And I'll be very happy to help any attorney that calls me to want to understand it, to unwrap it. I want clients to be assured that they have the best possible representation, and you don't have to use me for that. If you use somebody else and somebody else has a question, please feel free to call me, and I'll try to walk you through it. I want people to have better representation, and I want attorneys to do a better job at representing clients, especially in CSAM cases, because the stakes are so high.
We're just kind of scratching the surface of this. What else does the public not know about this that we haven't really talked about so far? Because we're just kind of laying out, here's what it is, here's the sentencing. But we talked about a little bit about how you get into it. What else don't we know that we should know?
Wow. So most people will carry this type of material on their phone, right? That's where most of the government knows where the pictures are. And most people think, well, I'm in this country, I have a Fourth Amendment right, no one could just come and search my phone. And for the most part, that's true. But the government can get a search warrant and walk over to you and say, hi, I'm from Homeland Security, give me your phone, I have a search warrant for it. And then they take the phone, they hook it up to a computer, and they see every single thing that ever came into that phone. Everything. All right? The computer will spit out every image, every text message, every email, every phone call. Whatever you saved on that phone, even if you didn't save it, even if it's deleted, this machine will find deleted files as well. So that's one thing you need to be careful about, what you have on your phone. The second thing you need to be careful about is when you travel internationally. You see, we have something called the border search exception. So if you travel internationally, whether you're leaving the country or coming into the country, you're subject to a search of the goods that are on you. And the phone is considered a good, because we don't want people bringing in cocaine to the country, right? So you know that all the suitcases get open, right? And we don't want people bringing, over $10,000 or drugs out of the country. So you give up that right, that Fourth Amendment right to be searched. And guess what? Your phone could be searched also. And an agent could come over to you because they have suspicion that you might be involved in this and say, give me your phone. What's your passcode? Open up your phone and find a picture of a minor that's, sexually explicit. You're not making that trip. You're getting arrested.
Wow. Did not know that.
Yeah.
So this is not something that we hear a lot about until somebody really important gets caught. what else are we not knowing about what's happening in our country? How prevalent is this that you're talking about?
It's becoming more and more prevalent, that's for sure. Um, this is mostly investigated by Homeland Security officers. Everyone thinks Homeland Security, they're protecting our border, they're making sure illegals don't come in. Well, they also have a unit to protect children as well. There's also something called NCMEC, which is the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children. That is an organization. It's not a government organization. It's a private organization that looks at all pictures of minors that are sent to them. They can determine from the codes on this picture whether it was sent in the past. Sometimes they actually know who the victims are, who these people are, and they know where it was sent. They know the IP address it was sent to, and they send that information over to the government. And it's called a hit, a NCMEC hit, right? And then the government takes that and starts an investigation to see who this person is. And they could read the text messages, and they could see the pictures, and they could see where the IP address, and they know where the house is, or the office is, or whose phone it is, and who's registered to that phone. And now they have all that information about the person because NCMEC got a picture. So all it took, one image that was sent to the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children, they got a picture, and they wrote a report, and now the government knows about it, and the government's investigating it. And usually that follows with an arrest.
Wow. This first. Well, I've heard a lot about this, but this is the first time we've actually dug into this kind of a topic. This is really, it's heartbreaking in so many ways that so many people get caught up in this. Someone who's been involved in this, what are you helping to do? I know besides defending people, and getting the awareness out, what else can we do as a public to make more people aware of what's going on?
Well, I think we need to discuss the human impact because unfortunately that gets forgotten a lot. Every single file, every single image of CSAM involves a real child, a child who was abused, a child who grew up knowing that strangers trade the worst moment of their lives, a child who lives with the knowledge that the images of their trauma are permanent. Every view of that picture is a new violation. Every download is a re-victimization of that child. CSAM is not a curiosity. It's not a kink. It isn't an addiction that you could justify. It's real child trauma. And if that doesn't hit you in the chest, I don't know what will. People have to realize that it's not just a painting. It's a real person behind that picture. And if you're listening to this and you're afraid because you feel out of control, you have two things working in your favor. Number one, you might not have broken the law yet, which is good. And number two, you're aware enough that you could stop before you do. Urges are not crimes and thoughts are not crimes, but a single click can destroy your life and permanently harm a child. There's no second chances once you cross that line, unfortunately. So if you need help, you should get it now. You should find a therapist. Be accountable for your actions. You can find support groups. There are resources out there. You can turn it around. You could stop the escalation. You can protect children. You can protect yourself. The silence is what kills everything. The silence breeds more secrecy, and the secrecy breeds the harm. So talking about this openly without shame is how we can actually prevent the crimes and protect the most vulnerable among us, the children. And that's really what I want to do. I mean, I defend people for a living because I feel bad that they got involved in this, and I understand how they got involved in it. But the truth is, I want to prevent it. I want to stop it at the source. I want people to understand that it's a dangerous crime and there's a real victim behind it.
Oh, that's really important. Anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
Wow, great. I love that question. We can spend hours on that. People always ask me, is it hopeless? It's not hopeless. Cases have defenses to them. We could always find a defense. We could always bring a defense. There are plenty of motions that could be made. Sometimes evidence is taken unconstitutionally, and it could be overturned. So I protect the Constitution as well as my client. It's not hopeless. And there is a path forward. There is recovery. There is life after getting caught. But I don't want people to get caught. I really don't. I could make a living with other cases. I don't need to make a living on CSAM cases. I really want prevention. I want people to understand that there's a victim and there's harm, and we need to stop it and prevent it from happening. And if you feel like your life is getting out of control because you're watching too much porn, and you think to yourself, "Oh, but I would never watch that." Watch. It happens. It happens to
Mm,
everyone. It escalates out of control. Get the help you need now.
I love that. I love to ask this guest my other question. So, what do you want your legacy to be?
Wow. My legacy, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting that, you know? Like, what do you want people to say at your funeral?
Right.
Um, you know, there's the Hippocratic Oath, and I'm not a doctor, is, above all, do no harm. I would like people to think that I did no harm in this world, that I left a legacy of somebody who was an honest person, who didn't harm people, who tried his best. That's pretty much all I would imagine, above all, do no harm.
I love it. So in season 6, we have a new thing too. We ask a surprise question. Pick a number between 1 and 10 for your surprise question.
4.
No one's picked 4. Let's see what this one is. Oh, this is great. If you got stuck in an elevator and were forced to listen to only one song, what would you pick?
Great song. All right. What would I pick? Trying to think of the name of the song because I could hear it in my head. I'm just trying to think of the name.
Who's it by?
That's a good question. It was the closing scene of The Sopranos. What's
Oh,
that
I don't know
song?
that one. I don't know
Yeah.
that one.
It's a great song, and it's a long song also.
Well, that'd be great. I thought you were going to pick something by Frank Sinatra, but
No, no, no.
So Sal, where can people connect with you if they want to learn more about, these kind of cases and lawyers want to get in touch with you if they have want some professional advice, where can they best find you?
So I have a website, bienenfeldlaw.com. Everyone could find that, and you can find me there. And by the way, I just remember the song is it's "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. That
Oh,
was
I
the
love
song.
that song. Yes.
Don't stop believing. Right, that's the song. It just comes. Sometimes you stop thinking about something, it just comes to you. Um, but yeah, definitely go to bienenfeldlaw.com. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook for Bienenfeld Law, and on YouTube as well. So you can always see more stuff about CSAM and other things and other interesting cases I have on my YouTube channel, which is Bienenfeld Law as well.
Well, Saul, thank you so much for sharing your insights about this really, really important topic that we're experiencing today. For the listeners, you can learn more about Sal and his work and connect with him through the links that will be in the show notes. Until next time, keep building bridges, keep building understanding and hope, and don't give up because whatever you may be caught up in, there's still an option and God still has in control of your life. Thank you so much, Sal, for your
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to Noah Bot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at @bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin. Thanks again and tune in next time.